I'm Corbett Wall with DVAuction, here with the cattle market summary for the week ending March the 27th. We had confidence totally return to the cattle markets this week. Feeder and stocker cattle sold $4 to $8 higher, with spots as much as $12 higher. Not just on the little peewee calves or the thin stockers, but on the big cattle too, even those weighing over 800 pounds and over 850. But there were multiple factors that went into this newfound confidence. The last week's trade of a 165 on fat cattle, that brought a lot of confidence back in. A lot of people didn't think they would hold in the 160s, and now we're getting up to the midpoint now. Last Friday's cattle on feed report was pretty friendly, and then we had persistent good demand for big feeder cattle, and that has really surprised the market and surprised a lot of people that watch the markets over the last several weeks. But the main thing that brought confidence back was the CME markets, the strength there, and not just the strength in the numbers, but the new open interest coming in. And open interest has really come back to a strong point there, and a lot of investment fund money, outside investment coming in there and making more contracts. And it's really put a lot of consistency back in the board, which is really what we've been needing here, because we've just been going $3 up and $3 down, or $4.50 one way or the other. And so that confidence and consistency right in there has really helped the market. And this has brought on a lot of bullish technical signals. And you'll see those outside interests really respond to the technical signals a lot quicker than they will fundamentals, even though technical signals pretty much just feed off of themselves, or feed off the market. Just all about what happened to the market, what the market's going to do, what it is from what it's already done. But that's where your outside interests respond, and it's really brought a lot of confidence back in your cash markets too. This week, your big feeder cattle really outperformed your stocker cattle, and you wouldn't think that for the first week of spring, but sure enough did this week. And pretty much the same trend on them. But when you're talking about 800-pound cattle gaining $4 to $8, that's a lot bigger deal than a 400 or 500-pound calf gaining $4 to $8. And some of those outside high trends there on the maximum gain of $12, maybe even $15 in spots, that was on some of your big cattle and some of your big auction markets this week. And your heavy cattle, your heavy feeders going right into the feedlot, this week in the auction, some of them have went back to those pre-holiday collapse numbers that we saw this right after it come off of the big all-time highs there in November. But we've seen the first highs we've seen since we saw that collapse right before we went into the holidays. But on your stocker cattle, you know, we weren't really disappointed in what they did this week. They were higher again, but they were outpaced by the bigger cattle, and you wonder about that. But some of these grass interests are already starting to wind down. Every year they start buying a little bit earlier, and guys were even buying their grass cattle, you know, last fall, and even in the winter time they were buying those little peewees and going to dry winter them all the way through there, so they'd know that they'd have grass cattle early. And so a lot of your big time grass interests, those turning out in those big grazing areas in the Flint Hills, the Osage, places like that, those guys have already pretty much got their grass cattle put together, and they need to do that because those cattle are going to need at least 30 days of warming up and straightening out and getting the sick ones going before they turn out. And a lot of these big areas want to turn out in mid part of April, so if they haven't already gone and bought, then they're kind of behind. But you know, your big cattle, just those big prices there, it's $2 for an 800-pound steer is nothing anymore. Here just a few weeks ago, we were just barely hanging on to $2 for an 800-pound steer. Most all your bigger groups of 800-pound steers brought north of $2 this week. And now we're talking about getting right up close and knocking on the door of $2 on a 900-pound steer. That's $1,800 a head right there. Your heifers, they gained ground this week too. Still a lot of replacement quality heifer buying going on. And of course that boosts the market for all your heifers right there. And a lot of those better groups of replacement quality heifers were outselling the steers this week, and not by a little bit, by a lot in some cases. But you know, in your lighter cattle, smaller backgrounders, they're starting to taper off, just like your bigger guys have mostly got their grass cattle put together. These smaller guys, a lot of them farm too, and they're diversified in what they do, and so they're getting ready for planting season. They're getting their equipment out and everything, and once a farmer starts farming, he could care less about cattle. And so, you know, we're starting to taper off on some of that, but probably more so why we're seeing some of that tapering off, or these calves and stocker cattle not gaining like they were, is because every week as we go on now, just a bigger percentage of the calf and lightweight offering is new crops. And anybody that's turned cattle out before, they'd a lot rather have those old croppers than they would those new crop calves. And the new crop calves are just fleshier. They're either unweaned or haven't been weaned near as long as those old crop calves. And they're not as hard, they're not as froze out, and nothing melts faster than a new crop calf fall born when it gets its first hot days. And so you take one of them fleshy balling calves and buy it right now, and then you start to try to warm it up in some type of a growing yard or something, and then you get a 90-degree day. Those calves have never seen 90-degree days in their whole life, and they will absolutely melt on you, and then sickness comes right behind that. But on your fat cattle this week, just a tough trade through Friday morning here. Just literally no significant trade at all. And the packers are really holding back. You know, they didn't want to go to 165 last week. When they get to the backside of the 160s, then, you know, they're really lost control of this market. And they've been pulling back their kills every week, just trying to spur the beef market and trying to get through this tight numbers of market-ready cattle that we have probably for the next 3 to 6 weeks. We're going to have real tight numbers of market-ready cattle, which are fat cattle that are done, that are ready to slaughter right now. There's several cattle in the feedlot, and there's going to be a lot of cattle coming down the road that are going to be finished, but right now there's just not a lot of cattle that are ready. And so this dressed beef market finally saw some seasonal demand this week as these retail outlets start buying, and they're getting ready to offer specials for the after Lent, after Easter, and going into your spring and early summer holidays coming up, and a lot of grilling demand coming on from that. So we'll see what this fat cattle deal does. If they get into the backside of the 160s, you know, where's it going to stop then? You know, we're already less than $10 from the all-time record high. But that's about does it for your cattle market summary this week. Here at DVAuction, still got a big slate of production sales. You know, if your herd bull budget is $2,500 to $25,000, you can get on there, and a lot of those will negotiate with you or have even free delivery, so you can buy a bull several states away and be just like buying him from a neighbor. So check out DVAuction.com for all those needs. For this report and more information, check out the stockexchangenews.com. And from a home DV auction office here in Maysville, Missouri, we'll talk to you next week.